Former Sprott executive Rick Rule speaks on everything from the Fed's current moves to the best safe havens for money right now. He said that the Fed is manic depressive. They respond to stimuli from everywhere at one point in time. They were concerned about rising asset prices. Then they became concerned about rising asset plate prices. At one point in time, they were concerned about too little liquidity. And other times, they are concerned about excess liquidity. We are seeing speculative excesses really throughout the investment business and probably throughout the broad economy, and it's something to be concerned about. You have to do something that seems counterintuitive and that the Fed doesn't want you to do. You have to hold some cash. Investors don't want to hold cash because they get a negative real yield on it. They feel like their purchasing power is declining. But if you have a circumstance like this where the market is frothy as a consequence of liquidity and as a consequence of emotion rather than because of increases in trade or productivity or other reasons, what you have to understand is that there is some real risk of a black swan event or some tightness in liquidity that gives us the circumstance that we experienced in 2008. Rick says that you have to maintain larger cash balances that many people feel are prudent. When you have cash in the event of contraction in liquidity, which causes all prices to fall, you have the tool and hopefully the courage to take advantage of it rather than being taken advantage of by it. Investors, particularly of age over 60, need to maintain some of that purchasing power in precious metals. Gold traditionally has been insurance against the depreciation of the purchasing power of your savings. You don't need to get completely out of the broad market, or if you have courage, even reduce your exposure to the broad market. We will sometime in the next 2 or 3 years experience a broad-based decline in liquidity and hence probably a broad-based decline in equity indexes. 10 years from now or 15 years from now, that a collection of the greatest companies in the United States presented by the S&P 500 would be higher than it is today, predicts Rick. But while everybody talks about 10 years from now or 15 years from now, everybody lives for the next year and a half or 2 years. So maintain some cash, maintain some precious metals. That's what Rick suggests to everyone. Digital currency does not possess a major threat to commercial banks because the commercial banks are powerful enough, economic and political entities, that they will cause the emergence of digital fiat currencies to serve their own interest. It was famously said that elections are advanced auctions of stolen property and the outcome can be determined by looking at the interest of the participants. The banks are very large participants. The overall economy is deflationary. We have too much debt, and the way that you normally solve a circumstance where you have too much debt is a default cycle, and defaults are very deflationary. If you take a bunch of money that was lent to somebody, saved by somebody else, and that money goes to money heaven, it's deflationary. The policy response to a default cycle, that is the tendency of society and politicians to postpone a default cycle, is inflationary. The United States federal government has $28 trillion in on-balance sheet liabilities and $120 trillion in off-balance sheet liabilities. That's extremely deflationary. We have built up a debt which is a bunch of things. It's a transfer of wealth to old fat guys who wanted for themselves a bunch of services from young people who wanted to expect those services in the future. We have also built up a debt that is truly inserviceable. It has to be rolled over. That on the face of it is extremely deflationary, but you could have a different kind of default. The kind of default we had in the 70s, where you inflate away the value of the medium that the debt is denominated in. In other words, if you have promised somebody $100,000, you inflate away the purchasing power of that $100,000 down to $20,000 or $30,000 and make that debt more manageable. The way we have defined inflation has been fed to us top down by the Fed, and maybe it isn't a fraud, but it's misleading. An example would be the Consumer Price Index, the CPI. First of all, it's been adjusted for so-called hedonistic reasons, which are to say, it is not a quantitative measure but rather a narrative measure, like everything else that's political. The second thing is that the Fed's estimate of the cost of living doesn't include tax, while government expenditures are over 50% of GDP. The idea that your cost of living doesn't include tax would be okay with you if you don't have to pay the tax. But given that you do a calculation of the cost of living that doesn't include tax seems very odd. So the government probably shouldn't be considered to be a consumer good. Unfortunately, it's a good which you are forced to consume and fund. And people, when they are thinking about the impact of their savings and their earned income relative to their purchasing power, need to think about inflation very differently than a slavish reliance on the CPI. Ideally, a currency is at once a medium of exchange in the store of value. The fact that a broader community adopts a crystal cryptocurrency and it becomes a medium of exchange delivers some value in and of itself. But one of the things that have happened with the rapid adoption of cryptocurrencies is that rather than being currencies, they have become trading sidelines. The very volatility that you see in some of the cryptocurrencies, while it increases their speculative appeal, ironically causes them to lose their utilities as a medium of exchange. For example, Rick adds up that if the cryptocurrency exhibits 10 upsides in a week, that's great for the speculator who bought it on Monday. But somebody who used it to buy a bag of groceries wouldn't know how much they paid for the groceries. And the grocer wouldn't know how much he or she received from the groceries. So it's ironic that the appeal of the cryptocurrency, the volatility diminishes the utility of the currency itself for its so-called designed purpose. Rick Rule concludes that the correct way to build your wealth is to understand the delta between the price of something and some approximation of its value. There are other ways to make money, but the surest way to make money is to understand an asset that is undervalued in a probabilistic sense and buy that asset.